notes about what we want to do. Okay, so I think we should do a podcast on side hustles and thoughts and dreams we had that didn't come to fruition, but we still like to somehow figure out.
Yet didn't come to fruition yet.
Yes.
I think the yet has to be in there.
Yeah, very true.
So, okay. We are officially writing down the inception, the path of which this podcast came to be. And
as we've tried to talk about it, we keep missing a lot of this shit. So maybe we should really plan out our conversations and podcasts that we make sure that we get all the information we need to. Because the 2 times we've tried to do this, dude, we done missed the board game stuff.
I think
we done missed the side hustle part of it. We done missed the freaking buying storage. That's even before the tit stuff.
Oh man, we have now that's way out of context, man.
It don't matter. We're gonna get to it.
Okay.
And if you all want to stick around, you'll get there.
I think people will want to stick
tits?
around.
What the fuck tits are they talking about? Don't worry about it. We'll get to it.
All right. So this is the inception of the Pono podcast. Do we want to start with the inception completely as we've started, or should we start with the name? Because I feel like that's the first thing that we've said is the name.
Yeah, we can start with the name.
Okay.
Because it's gone through a couple different iterations, though.
It has. Yeah, it has. And maybe that's a good way to kind of start and close the loop on my brother dropping the tits bomb. So this is the Pono podcast. And Pono is a Hawaiian word that means righteousness. Mm-hmm. And this podcast is by far and away nothing righteous other than my brother and I's pursuit to perpetuate knowledge and wisdom gathered by the telling and gathering of stories of our kapunas, our elders, and our mo'opunas, those of the next generation. So, Pono is a play on words. We chose it because, yes, it is that powerful Hawaiian word, but Pa'oa started, I think, in our 20s.
I'd say, like 20s or so.
I think in our 20s, so well over a couple decades ago. In our 20s, Pa'oa had a nickname for me, and he would call me No. And it was, I don't know if it was started in maybe on the phone or in text messaging or whatever, but I just remember you starting to call me No. And eventually I just got around, even though Pa'oa is P-A-O-A, mm-hmm. I just started calling you Po. And I would like to have a disclaimer out there that I started calling you Po before Kung Fu Panda ever came out. So sorry, Jack Black. I started calling him Po before it was actually popular. So we had, with that play on words, we came up with the Pono podcast. And would you like to talk about the iteration of the title? Before it became what it is today, it was something else.
Well, I do, but again, I think we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit, and I don't mean to push back against this, but I really think we should go back to the beginning, because eventually, through all of this discussion, we eventually get to what I dropped earlier, and then how it came to be the Pono. I really think that's a cool thing, especially with how you came up with it. So
okay, well, I am going to do my best to try to take notes. I mean, I know we're videoing this and it's going to be documented, but I'm a tactile learner. I'm a visual learner. I actually feel like I'm kind of multifaceted because I learn in a lot of different ways.
Nice, man.
I can learn things tactile. I can hear things. I'm not the best at just audio. Mm-hmm. Much better at visual, especially if it's tactile. If I can put my hands on it, I'm much better learning it. So I'm going to kind of try to keep track of the conversation by writing some little notes down to document it a little bit, and to hopefully be able to draw us back, because sometimes we can get down some rabbit holes, as we have already found out with a few of the other clips that we've already recorded. So, okay, so the inception of this, a while ago, and I loved Po'oa's perception on this, so I would say 2 or 3 years ago, I was introduced to a now very popular board game of Warhammer 40K, and it is a tabletop board game that you would play. And I know I'm going to piss some people off because I may not have used that term appropriately or accurately, but anyways, it is a tabletop board game, and it has miniatures of these little figures, and so you battle with other people and their armies, and so you build armies, and so there's some stuff, some very nerdy stuff.
He's really trying to minimize it. It's pretty damn cool, to be honest with you. It is really cool.
So I got infatuated with board games, and so I started looking at other board games, and at the time I was just unhappy kind of with my employment. I am grateful for my employment. I am not by any means minimizing the fact that I have a job. I am grateful for it. But my brother and I were at a point where neither of us were very happy with where we were working and where we are currently working for the state government. And I would actually kind of want to pull you in on this because I love your perspective on this and how you kind of describe it. So just kind of give them a perspective about where we were when we were thinking about this stuff, about side hustles to try to maybe possibly supplement. or even possibly replace our income. Yeah. And why would we even be doing that, right?
So he's right. We were very happy for the opportunities we have to actually have a job, especially in this economy right now. But the type of people that we are fixers, we are doers, we don't like the status quo, we don't like the answer when we say, hey, why do we need to do it this way? If you say because it's how we've done it all along, we lose a lot of respect for you right then and there. If you can't really tell us why and the nuts and bolts of how so that we understand, I don't have a lot of respect for what you bring to the conversation. And unfortunately, that seems to be a lot in government. And that's unfortunate because it contradicts how I feel we've been raised to ask questions, to probe, to learn, to know.
Think freely.
Think for yourself and to really try to figure out what would be the best possible way to fix the situation. But anyways, so we look at our employment with the state as a means to an end. Whatever that end may be, maybe it's us retiring from it. Who knows? Or maybe it's a means for us to be able to supplement our income and pay our bills now, but it also may be able to give us opportunities financially to be able to do something else that, like he alluded to, we may be able to turn into money that can help supplement our income or possibly even replace it. Because I can tell you right now, I don't want to go back to working for anybody else. If I do anything, I want to work for myself. I want to work. I've worked for myself before. I was too young to understand that. Now being where I'm at now, I know and wholeheartedly believe that anything I get out of anything, I want to reap the benefit to that. Or people who are around me, who are part of my team, or who are partnered with me. If I know they're going 100%, damn it, I'm going 100% too, because we're going to both reap the benefits from this. Whereas when you're working for someone else, that's not always the case. So, yeah, we were looking for just ways to supplement ourselves. And then Noah came up with, content creation.
Yeah, I thought of content creation, for me personally, kind of selfishly, and I thought about, how could I do something cool with content creation and my board games, my nerdy stuff. And so I started thinking about pictures and, Instagram accounts, maybe doing some of my painting stuff or some of my terrain making and some of my kit bashing stuff. And then I was like, maybe video and storytelling.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would be cool. And then I just thought one day, it would be awesome to do something with my brother. And so one of the things I think before we got to the podcast, which I still would love to do, man, is we thought about, man, what if we did like one of those storage unit things where we went and bought some storage units and then resell stuff? Like, man, we always loved, I have fond memories of going garage sailing when we were kids, and I love that my wife is a thrifty person and loves to go to garage sales and Value Village and stuff. I love that about my wife and about my past. But so we thought about storage units. But one of the things that also came into mind, I like podcasts. I like very specific types, and I know lots of people that listen to them. And so I thought, that planted its seed in my mind about maybe we could do a podcast. And so I brought that up one day. And then we just started talking about these different types of podcasts and, would it be interview type? Would it be just us kind of talking about current events and talking about our stories? And we threw out a lot of different ideas, which I think is really cool because we've almost kind of held on to all of those ideas, and they are we're thinking about ways to implement them in the future, and I just really love it. I know after the podcasts, we started talking about, kind of the formatting, and I think we landed on, because again, we shared very deeply, having lost our father and, the last 5 years and processing that grief through COVID and all this stuff, coming to this place of like all these questions that we wish we would have asked Dad and these things that we wish we would have learned about him and known about him. And then talking about how we could capture in a podcast setting our stories as a gift to our mo'opunas, our kids and our next generations. And then we kind of expounded to, I don't know if you want to share, just a little bit more about thinking about, the aunties and the uncles and even maybe the grandparents that we've lost recently and the questions that we wanted to ask them. And
well, and for me, it did start with Dad, because we knew him as Dad, but he was so much more than that. He was a son, he was a brother, he was a cousin, he was a coworker, he was an uncle. He's just all these different facets that we never really had the context of what that was to us, because he was always fucking Dad. He was fucking Superman. He's gonna be here forever, just like Grandpa Naipo. He's gonna be here forever. But indestructible. And oh man, I would always hate when Grandpa would say, I'm not gonna be here, forever. And that was so foreign to me. And then when Dad started saying that too, and of course, the thing is Grandpa was still alive when he was saying that, and then Dad started saying that, and I'm like, whoa, why are you doing that, Dad? Why are you saying these things? Well, I mean, come on, time isn't not infinite; it's very finite, and we don't have a lot. And so, with that, after we lost, our grandpa, and then a few years down the road losing Dad, it's like, man, we wish we just would have known just these little bits more. Our grandmas. Our Grandpa Bill, our mom's dad. There's just so much that we've heard about them, but I feel it would have been so much better to hear it from them.
That's what I was,
And I think that's really the power from storytelling comes. Now, granted, yes, within the Hawaiian culture, storytelling is huge, whether it's done through, just telling the story, dancing of hula,
singing the
songs,
doing the chant,
all of these different vehicles. But I don't feel it's the same. It still can be questioned by people who are of this generation. We're like, who really said that? This and that, and questioning these statements that people are sharing from what they've heard from their kapunas. But I felt, it would be great just for us to be able to capture that, so that way, hey, this is the person. This is them saying it, and this is their story. Not the telephone game 3 or 4 generations down the road, but really, this is them 30 years ago telling you about themselves and who they are. And so, and I think that came along too. It was not just kapunas, but it was really just us. We've had some really great conversations, between us as brothers, talking as fathers, because I've got adult children now. I'm a grandpa myself, and he's got two teenagers in high school, or going into
going into his freshman year.
Kind of will be going
into his junior year.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got 2 kids in high school, and I remember those times. Now, granted, my kids were, as soon as one left, the next one was going in, so I never really had 2 in high school at the same time. But I felt like, hey, Michael was rough. My oldest Kulani, it was rough because I was still young, and good Lord, I was like, hey, Kamiko, be a little bit better. Wasn't quite, was a little bit better, but you ask him, it may be a little bit differently in his eyes, but hey, it's okay. And then with Keikilani, just because her being a girl, no, the message didn't change. It was still the same message, just the delivery was maybe a little bit different. So we've had a lot of conversations like that. And again, just not me trying to tell you how to do things, because I would never do that, because what works for me maybe isn't what works for you. But just try to give you another perspective to look at it, and try to.
That's what I always love about what you do, is you never tell me what to do. You always just offer another way to look at things, and you try to just give me an option to just take a moment and think about it. and again, offer another way, another angle to look at the situation,
Yeah.
to possibly change my mind, but also to possibly just give me affirmation in what I believe. Because sometimes when you look at it from another angle, it's like, I see what that's about, but no, I still believe what I want to believe. So I always appreciate that about
No,
you.
no,
So
and
thank you for
that's totally okay
me on
too, because again, it's just another seed. Because maybe, hey, it doesn't make sense now because you don't have the context to apply what I'm talking to you about yet, which is totally fine. And I think that's something that we have to learn as parents. That sometimes when we tell our kids something, they don't quite have the context on how to put those those things together. Like, yeah, maybe they learn not to do this, and we expect them to apply that same lesson to this thing over there because we know they connect. But if they haven't experienced that, how are they supposed to know that this previous lesson they learned is also going to be applied over here when they've never had to connect that dot?
Yeah.
And so, again, just getting back to some of the great conversations we've had about being fathers, being husbands, brothers, sons.
Well, and that's actually what brought us to the first name.
Yes, exactly.
We were like, well, we could throw in some episodes of interviewing, but we were like, what we would really probably enjoy doing is just doing this.
Yep,
just talking story, just chilling and talking through life and our experiences and our stories, and being open and vulnerable with each other, and just
two Islanders
talking story. But it didn't start with the name Story. I thought it would be cool if we called it Two Islanders Talking Shit. And so that means, because that could be anything, right? And it could be good things, it could be bad things, we're just
funny,
it could be funny, whatever. So the title meant to leave us open for options.
Yes.
Right. And to be a broad spectrum of things. So we're like, so that we can have different types of episodes, right?
Exactly.
And then we thought,
well, no. Then we started getting to, well, let's start capturing our kapunas and stuff.
Yep.
And it was like, hey, just so you guys know too, our mom absolutely loved the Two Islanders Talking Shit, the Tits podcast. She loved that. She thought it was hilarious. She thought that would go places. But we were like, Mom, but the aunties, I don't think they're going to want to come on the Tits podcast.
So hopefully you are putting two and two together.
Yeah.
So two, right, starts with T. Islander starts with an I. Talking starts with a T. Or story starts with S. So TITS, the Tits podcast. And we were like, oh, that would be awesome. But we thought to ourselves, our invitation to an auntie, one of our kapunas, our elders, saying, Auntie, would you love to come on to the Tits podcast and be interviewed about your life and captured, for your future generations? And we just didn't think that was proper. So we moved away from that. We tried to soften the blow by moving away from the word shit. And we went to talking story, but we still thought it was probably inappropriate to ask our aunties to come on to the Tits podcast. So overnight brought up, I just had this idea. I was coming up with these logos, and I was thinking of, nicknames of Paoa and I, and I was like, man, it immediately just came to me, like, Paoa has always called me No. In our 20s, he started calling me that. And so, although his name is Paoa Kalani, Paoa, I started calling him Po, right? So No Podcast. And it just, man, overnight, I sent it to Paoa, I think in a text.
Yeah, it was a text.
And I thought it was kind of, at first I was like, oh, he's probably going to think this is hokey. But there was something in my heart that was like, this feels special. I'm sending it. So I texted it to him, and I don't know, do you remember what you felt when I first sent it to you?
Oh, dude, I was right there because I knew what Pono meant. Pono's righteous. And I knew exactly where you were coming from. You weren't stating that we are righteous, because we're not by any means. We are striving to become righteous in our own right, whatever that may be for us individually. But we're on a path of righteousness.
Yep.
And that's another great thing that I love about the Hawaiian people, that I feel like it's not about us getting to somewhere. It's the journey that we go wherever we're going that is of importance to the Hawaiian people. It's not the end goal that people strive for. It's just they are very present. They're very much present and here in the now. They covet and respect the past, but I don't feel like they are yearning for these things in the future because they're so thankful for what they have now. And so anyways, when I texted me that, I was immediately sold on it. And then I started thinking, hey, that can be the basis and the overarching name of our podcast is DaPoNoPodcast. But then we can have all of these different little subsections and episodes. So, hey, Joe Rogan, he's got the Fight Companion. He's got
Saving the Parks or
Save the Parks.
Save the Parks podcast.
So he's got all of these different little episodes that have themes to them.
Yeah.
And I figured like, hey, we could have a tits segment where it's just us bullshitting. It could be us reacting to something or just us talking stories, seeing how things are going, whatever it may be. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, I think I had that same visceral, deep down, this is something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we got to do something with this now.
I know, man.
And see, that's the thing is I have I'm very analytical, but to the point to where it can become paralyzing because I dig so much into it that I get so much information that I don't know where to step first. But this, even though I'll be honest, there was a lot of paralysis, by analysis type of stuff, when I was looking at, hey, what do we get for our recording? What type of mics? How are we going to video and put the audio together? And it's like, listen, it's two of us. He has experience more than I do, probably less than what I think he does, but still, he's got more experience editing and stitching audio and video together in a presentable manner in one of his previous jobs. So I was like, maybe he could look into this. So that way it got taken off of my shoulders. And so that's another thing that I think is great about us is that we communicate to each other and we're able to yoke someone else's load if we need to and just help out the cause, which is us trying to get this out. And this has been months undertaking, but it's cool that we're now just sitting down and actually testing this stuff out and seeing how it goes. So hopefully you like it.
And I think, again, we're working full time. I have teenagers, you got grandkids and, you live on a property helping take care of our mother and a big piece of property. Yeah. And,
well, you help out too, bro. And so does our other brother-in-law. Hey, brother Daniel, appreciate him.
I just, I appreciate you, man. I think it's really, really cool to see where we've kind of come in such a short period of time. Like, yes, it's been months, but like to be here, actually recording something and like even discussing like the inception of this, it's like, oh, so we've already given birth. Like we're going. Like, oh shoot, we got a toddler now. It's got legs and it's walking. Okay, we gotta start babyfying this stuff and it. What I really want to remember to also, I think we should capture is the why behind this. We talked about, one of the things that is really important to me is that monetarily, I know money can be such a blessing, but it can also be such a curse. And so, regardless if this goes anywhere, this is ultimately kind of selfishly just for us. Like we started this for us to be able to capture our stories to give to our, next generations. If we can bless someone else with this, we are going to use this as an avenue to do that. But, this is not and should not, I hope will never be controlled by monetary gain. And that the true reason why we're doing this is to share our stories in sharing our knowledge and wisdom with future generations by capturing it digitally and however that looks. Man, I hope deeply that this will continue to just be a main thing, that we do not let the money aspects get between us.
No. I think that's another thing that we've we sort of talked about too, is I think the reason why you had the reaction you did to just the podcast idea, as well as, coming up with the name, and then my reaction being the same, is that within the Hawaiian culture, there's something called your kuleana. So it's your calling. It's what your purpose. Now, it may be, your purpose in life, but it may also be a purpose just for a small amount of time. But one of the things I've learned, especially from Auntie Leanne, love you, thank you so much, is that sometimes your kuleana is not fun. It is not simple. Or it's not easy. It is very hard work, emotionally, mentally, physically, even sometimes. But you are called to do that by a higher power, by your kupunas, by something, and you need to heed that call. And so a kuleana, a lot of times, people, I feel like they may get, and Noah's alluded to this as well, is that, your kuleana, I feel like, isn't always going to be comfortable. If you're all happy and it's about me, my, I, and all, those are your statements about it, it's like, I don't know if that's the right path for you, because truly your kuleana is to help others. I mean, you imagine the Hawaiian people on this little rock in the middle of the ocean. Do you really think they had time to really worry about me, my, I? No. They were worried about, hey, we are a tribe. We are a community of people. I live on the ocean. I have access to fish. I live a little bit more inland. I have access to kalo, which is, a rooted plant, poi, luau leaf. There may be another person a little bit further up in the mountains who has access to fruits and other vegetables that the people down in the lowlands don't. So therefore, they had to barter and trade and do things. Yes, that was where they were at, but it was never really theirs. It was everyone's. It's just they happened to be the caretaker of that source. And that was their kuleana. Their kuleana was to help make sure that the fish beds were taken care of and that there was enough fish for everyone, that the people who were taking care of the kalo, that there was enough harvested so that everyone had abundance. Same thing with the people with the fruits and the vegetables. So again, getting back to the root of our calling, which is our kuleana, we do feel called to do this. We do feel good thinking about this, but we also know that it is a huge responsibility to make sure that we do it correctly. Mm-hmm. And that's going to take some time. It's going to take some trial and error. And hopefully you'll stick along with us along this ride and you'll enjoy what you see.